So here's a crazy truth I'd like to share with you. And I'm not a profound guy, but this is a pretty crazy, profound understanding that I made when I look back after 20, 25 years of being on the spiritual path. And that is, you can know anything that you want to know. You can find out. And if you're interested in the nature of reality, if you're interested in spiritual development, and if you're interested in your spiritual potential, you have questions around that, you can get those questions answered. And I know this as a matter of absolute certainty because that's been my experience. So I can remember when I was 19 and I was really trying to figure things out. I wanted to know, why am I here? What the hell's going on? Um, there must be a way, and all this craziness just makes sense. So I wanted to know, who am I? Why am I here? And how should I live? How can I be happy? And those questions are, I guess, normal really for most spiritual people that are waking up. They're normal. And you can get those questions answered. So I just kept looking and looking and searching and looking within inside myself. And 20 years later, 25 years later, 30 years later, I have answered those questions as deeply as any person can. So I know the answer to these questions, and it doesn't make me special, right? What it shows you is that anybody can do this. You just have to be interested enough. So on my journey, at some point, suddenly I was with a spiritual teacher and I was with an enlightenment teacher who was the real deal. And when these things happen in your life, right, you must have had this happen in different ways where you've taken a step up, you've leveled up, or you've broken through something, and you have a little bit of imposter syndrome, like, who? Me? Can I do this? And the reality is, yeah, yes, you can. Yes, you can. And really, when you look at the big picture, right, when you really step back and look at our our complete history of as far back as we can possibly kind of imagine, when you go back to wherever the creation of the universe, wherever that was, if it's what as scientists say, like 16, almost 17 billion years ago, or whether even that is just made up nonsense. But if you go back really far and you look at this deep time perspective, what you'll see is that the universe is evolving and it's developing and it's becoming more aware, more self-aware. And that is what the universe is. It's this endeavor to become more self-aware through everything that is conscious. So the universe is searching for itself through everything which is conscious. That means through you as well. So your consciousness is a vehicle through which spirit, through which the universe is looking to understand and find itself. So why is that important? Because it tells you that it would make sense that the universe supports you in your desire to know, that your curiosity is supported because it's not just your curiosity, it's the universe's curiosity, right? You experience it as yours, like your spiritual desire for development. Oh, it's all about me. It's all about, oh, I'm so spiritual. Look at me, everybody. Look how spiritual I am. Namaste. I'm having a spiritual thought. I'm having a spiritual breakthrough. That's all of us. That's all of us, right? You don't need to make it overtly narcissistic because that's the human experience. But that human experience is spirit, spirit moving through us, through our vehicle, through our capacity for self-reflective awareness, through the human. So of course, spirit is going to help you in your desire to answer questions about the nature of reality, because that's its essence. That's why this grand experiment is taking place, this grand, chaotic, ultimately paradoxical paradox which can never be solved, only born. That's why this experiment is taking place, because universe is looking for itself. It's looking for novelty. It's looking to know, because it came out of infinite being into time and space, into this yin yang movement between dark and light, so that it could find itself. And we are a product of that process, and we are part of that process. We are born of that process. So of course, it's in our nature to be interested. It's in our DNA, it's in our cells to want to know ourselves. So you can answer any question that you have. The real challenge, right? Here's the big challenge. The challenge that you don't hear about, you don't expect, that they don't tell you about. And that's this. When you've discovered the answer to your question, then the universe says to you, then spirit says to you, very good. What are you going to do about it then? And then a lot of spiritual seekers, and I've seen them, including me, say, excuse me, what do you mean? What do you mean do about it? I just wanted to know. And then the universe says, well, no, this isn't like, this isn't just about knowledge. This isn't about knowing something. It's about applying that knowledge and changing and putting that truth into embodied action, because only then is it worth something. Just knowing something is nothing. That's just a garment of the ego, clothing of the ego that says, now I know something. I've read Bhagavad Gita and I understand this knowledge, and listen to me, everybody, as I repeat this knowledge. That's nothing. That has no value, right? If that knowledge is then embodied lovingly as part of your path, then it becomes wisdom, and then it has value. So when you know something, then the big challenge comes, because then you got to do something about it. And I've seen so many people, because I've been part of a very large spiritual community for many years, so I've watched myself and others evolve through practice and through endeavor and through seeking. And I know that what happens is when people do find the truth, they are freaking shocked by the implication of it. And they say, okay, thank you very much. I've got to be somewhere. And then you don't see them again. Which is fair enough. Everything is okay. Everything is as it is. But it's just curious to observe this process. And it's crazy to realize that you can know. So you can go so deep into the nature of being that you can experience yourself as spirit, as the universe, and understand that you are spirit, and not as a cognitive concept or as a belief, right? There's no belief in any of this, right? If any system tells you need to believe in something, right, to be part of their group, I would say, what's the price that you're really paying for joining that belief system? There's no belief involved in understanding the nature of the universe, because it's your direct perception of yourself, truth. You realize that it's all just one thing happening, and you are that as well. You, as your personality, right? Your personality stays the same, your history stays the same. But you understand yourself in a way bigger context, and understand, oh, you're not just this story of this boy or girl with this personal history and these desires for the future. You are something way bigger than that, nothing less than everything that is, and totally connected with everything that is happening. So you can find this out, and you can find this out through whatever spiritual practice you're doing, right? All roads really lead to Rome. So whether it's meditation, whether it's yoga, whether it's plant medicine, whether it's being with a enlightenment teacher, like a real teacher, like an actual teacher that will confront you with yourself and your shadow and your ego, not a teacher that will just placate you and tell you that you're wonderful and you're good and here's your participation medal. Talking about a real teacher. So Any road will lead you there if you have sufficient conviction. If you want it enough, and that's what it's down to. You have to want to know enough so that you keep knocking on the door, and then you'll get rejected and you'll get rejected and you'll get rejected. But you keep knocking and you will find out. You will be led to the information. Now, what is very important is that you do have to have developed the capacity to recognize truth. This is important because we live in a world where everybody says, yeah, all truth is relative, and everything that we believe, you can believe what you like, and you can have your truth and I can have my truth. That's more about preferences about reality, because the ultimate nature is not a choice. If you've been confronted with the direct truth, you don't say that's your truth, that's my truth. Nothing personal about the nature of truth at the deepest possible level. It's truth. So if you are committed enough, you'll get there, as long as you have developed the capacity to recognize truth. And this is something that people don't talk about in the spiritual world very much. Your intuition, your capacity for discernment are tools in your spiritual toolbox that have to be sharpened like daily. And most people are just walking around in a state of zombification. But these tools, your intuition, your discernment, can be crafted, can be sharpened. All right, so it's easy to think about how to develop your intuition, because we can do that with tools like meditation, Reiki, all kinds of shamanistic practices that take you inside will help you develop your intuition. But how do you develop your discernment? This is important. This is important stuff. Think about this. You have to know yourself. You have to be willing to know yourself to have any capacity for discernment whatsoever. And this is a big deal. Knowing yourself is a big deal, because it means you have to be able to observe yourself without judgment, right? And I don't mean just this like oh, I accept my inner child stuff. I mean, you really got to be okay with your shadow. You've got to be okay with it, and that's tough, right? It's not easy to be okay with your shadow self. But you got to be. We all have shadow. We're all works in development. We got to give ourselves a break. Like, stop judging yourself. It's just like you did your best. Life is hard. Life is hard, right? Most of us do not have an easy ride. Most of us have not had an easy childhood. So don't beat up on yourself. Give yourself a break. If you're a spiritual person, you're already ahead of the game in so many different ways. If you're listening to this, you're already this far into this video. Honestly, the reality is you're ahead of the game, because you're endeavoring to look into the nature of self, and that's a big deal. That's gonna take you very, very far. But you have to be able to be okay with yourself to develop a good capacity for discernment. Because if you can't see yourself, if you can't objectively know yourself to at least a certain degree, then you're just going to have lack of clarity in every area, and you're not going to be able to recognize truth, even if it slams you in the face, right? How many people do you know that are stuck in this developmental loop where they hit the same thing again and again and again, and you try to help them, and you try and say, hey, I've seen this pattern before, and they go, oh, no, it's okay. I've been to here and I've done that, and I've got this new therapist, but they're still hitting the same thing. So even if truth, like life as the guru, hits you in the face, they're still stuck. So you have to have a capacity to recognize truth. So this is really important, and nobody speaks about it, right? Why? Because most spirituality is placatory. It wants to make you feel good and okay. And that is part of spirituality, right? Don't get me wrong. Understanding that heart connection is most important, right? The heart path is the only real path that will get you there. Absolutely. Love, unconditional love, absolutely. But we also have to be able to be discerning right? We have to. There's no other way. Doesn't mean that we're judgmental, doesn't mean that we're unnecessarily critical, but we can call out BS. We can say that one thing is true and another thing is not true. Got to be able to do that. Otherwise, we're going to get stuck in this kind of post-modern everything is okay world where nobody's truth is allowed to go higher, because then you are a Nazi dictator. It's crazy. So if you want to know anything and you want to know it enough, you will be able to get there. You'll be able to figure it out. I promise you. Just has to be important enough to you. Has to be important enough to you. And then whatever way works for you, use that way, whatever way. You just have to keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. And the universe is supporting you. It's supporting you. So it will guide you if you can listen. That's why intuition is important, right? It will guide you and it will say this way, this way. It will guide you to a person, to a book, to a YouTube video, to a situation. Universe is a beautiful synchronistic flow, right? But again, how often are we fighting that flow? So I don't want to go on too long on this, because we can go in all kinds of different directions. So I just want to come back to this main point, which is pretty mind-blowing, really, that anybody can know the truth about the nature of reality if they want to enough, right? So maybe I should say this as a closing point. Why does this seem so remarkable? Because we've been programmed. Why does it seem so audacious to say that, hey, I can talk to God directly, I can talk to Spirit directly without an intermediary and a go-between, right? A guru or a shaman or a priest or whoever says that they can talk to God on my behalf. It's between you and God. This life is between you and God. And it's just that we've been programmed to think small. Right? Religion programs us to think that we're sinners, that we're small. God is here. God is almighty and all-knowing. And only through this religion, this belief system, and these prayers and this way can we get to God. Well, I want to call bullshit on that. Sorry, it's not true. And it's not my experience. Just go to the source. Just knock on the door. And reject the programming that says that you need an intercessionary. Humbly connect directly to the universe, and you will be able to get to the truth of anything that you want to know, and reject this huge, powerful matrix of programming which says that you can only know truth through this belief system, this religion, this path. Oh, come to my group, come and join my teacher. I reject that, because ultimately you look inside yourself, what you find is a sovereign being, and at a level of spiritual sovereignty, your development is up to you and nobody else. It's all up to you. You're capable. You're way more powerful than you think. Okay, I'll stop here. Have a great day.